Hi, welcome to another episode of EPMS Tech Talk. I'm Chris Costa.
And I'm Joanne LaFlamme.
Hi, Joanne.
Hi, Chris.
So what should we cover today?
Well, we've had a lot of questions lately from our customers about how they could invoice multiple jobs on one invoice.
Sure.
So can we take a look at that?
Absolutely.
All right.
I guess before we go to the screen, just a couple of things. Invoicing a number of jobs on one invoice, the process isn't a whole lot different than putting, just a single job on an invoice. You're still going to go through the job closeout process. You still need to have the jobs closed. The underlying theme is the same.
Okay.
The procedure to get the jobs on the invoice will shift a little bit in that on the invoice there's a list jobs button where after the jobs are closed, instead of converting to invoice in one fell, in one step, on the invoice there's a list jobs button where you can access the list of closed jobs
Okay.
and highlight the ones that you want to add.
Great.
Okay, so if we go to
Sure.
the screen, we'll kind of step through it a little bit. So I'll start in accounts receivable. And like I said, you do need to go through the job closeout section and close out the orders that are ultimately going to end up on the invoice.
Okay.
Okay, so in the in the open jobs, you can close them one at a time. So you would look for the orders, and you still need to run through this closeout process.
Well, what if I
Okay.
have a lot of jobs that I want to close out? Do I have to close each job out individually, or is there a quicker way to do that?
There is a different way. Yep, there is an alternative, I should say. Okay, so that would be the single job closeout if you depending on your procedures, if you had the, you wanted the CSRs to run, the estimated versus actual report, or, look at some of those job specs on
Okay.
that particular screen. But if you didn't want to, if we come back to the screen, okay, the open jobs closing multiple at a time, okay, if I highlight or filter the list down sorted by customer, I could actually, you don't even have to hold the shift key, it's just a single click. You could just multiple highlight here the number of orders, click close out, and it sort of bypasses that individual job closeout step where you can just highlight a number of jobs and just close them out all in one step.
Okay, perfect. So now they're all closed out. Now how do I get them onto an invoice?
Okay, sure, we'll come back. Okay, so I'll close out of here. And if I go up to batch entry, I'll add an invoice batch. I won't give it a description for this test. Add an invoice. You do have to have a customer, of course, on your invoice. I'll just grab anyone. And then the list jobs button is down here on the lower right. So instead of adding a line item, you'll hit the list jobs button, and then a list of orders is going to come up.
Okay.
Like I said, the only way they'll show up is if the job is closed out.
Okay.
Okay, so if we come back, click list jobs. So all of these jobs, as you can see, closed out for this specific account. Okay, so I can either do a search on job numbers. If I want to descend this list, it is a customizable grid just like any other data grid. I can highlight any number of orders and then add them to the invoice.
Okay. So that's going to add the line items for the individual jobs. What if I want to invoice by components for each of these jobs?
Sure.
Is there a way to do that?
Yes, there is. Just one note of caution here, the reason you're seeing this job number multiple times, I did pick a customer that has the option set for pre-press
Yep.
to break out separately. So
Okay.
that's why we're seeing this here. Okay. If I go back to the list jobs, okay, you've got a couple of buttons here. One of them select job, one of them select components.
Okay.
So if you hit the select job button, it'll bring in essentially one line for each order.
Okay.
Okay, and if you hit the select components button, it'll bring in each of the individual components.
For all the jobs that I've selected?
Yes.
Okay.
So if you select 10 jobs, 4 components each, you should expect to see 40 line items.
Okay.
Not to mention the freight, the postage, the handling, all
Right.
of those shipping records will come in as well for the order.
Okay, perfect.
Okay? Okay. So then I'll just go ahead and print the actually I was going to print the invoice for you. Let me cancel and grab a different customer, one that maybe I can show a little bit quicker and easier. Okay. All right, so actually I'll just grab this same customer here and I'll pick a different job number. Okay, so I'll grab list jobs, and let's just grab these 2 jobs here, and I'll hit select job. Okay, and let me go ahead and just make sure that we have a sales code on these lines. One other thing, Joanne, while I'm grabbing these sales codes, creating an invoice with multiple line items or multiple jobs on it really is no different than creating an invoice that might be just from one specific job. So you still need to make sure your sales distribution is right.
Yep.
The process of saving the invoice, editing, the ability to edit the invoice,
Okay.
all of that is going to be the same. Ultimately, what you want to end up with is the invoice lines. They're still going to be tied to a job number.
Okay.
So all of that's going to be the same. It's just the manner in getting, the jobs onto the invoice.
Okay.
Okay.
Great.
So now we should be set up here to be able to print the invoice, so we can just see how it will look. Okay. So again, we added 2 jobs to the invoice, so you can see, $39.55 and $39.36. So it will just break it down, by job. And then obviously the shipping records, if you have options such as breakout pre-press, breakout bindery, all that will show separately as well.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay?
Okay.
Is there anything else that you think we should go over?
No, I think you've answered my questions for today. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Well, this was another episode of EPMS Tech Talk. I'm Chris Costa.
And I'm Joanne LaFlamme.
Thank you, and please look forward to more to come.